And, you know, people in their lives, you know, sometimes they'll enter a period where all hell is breaking loose and everything seems to be conspiring against them. So these things happen. And so Job, it's like, first of all, his whole family's destroyed, then everything he owns. So that's act one. Then Satan curses him with a terrible skin disease.
Yeah, that's tough.
Right,
that's
right.
Tough,
and then he has to sit in the ashes, scraping himself. And then his friends come along and tell him that he must have done something wrong because otherwise the universe wouldn't be conspiring against him. So that's about as bad as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then God himself comes along and says, who are you to complain about your fate? Right. Now, if you don't think that's going to happen to you in your life, you're not very smart, because that is going to happen to you in your life. So then the question is, what the hell should you do about it? And one answer would be, well, that sucks. It's God and Satan against you. You know, you're kind of outmatched. It's completely unfair because you were good and everything that you valued is taken away from you. So what should you do? You know, you shake your fist at the sky and raise a middle finger and say, fuck you, you know, like now I'm on the side of Cain and the devils, and I'm going to be resentful and bitter. And people might look and think, well, it's no wonder you're resentful and bitter. Like, you lost your whole family. You have a terrible disease. Your friends are laughing at you. Right. So you have every reason. That isn't what happens in the story. Job decides that no matter what happens to him, and he means that, no matter what happens to him, he's going to maintain his ethical orientation and aim up. And I think that's, but then you think, look, man, forget about the religious trappings. Here's hell. Hell is when you get cancer. And then you're bitter and resentful about it, and you make your last 6 months a living fucking nightmare. Right. And so you might say, well, you've got cancer and that sucks. And no doubt it sucks. And maybe it's unfair. And probably it is. And maybe even, you know, God and Satan themselves bet against you. You're going to aim up and maintain your dignity and your integrity? Or are you going to take a bad situation and make it into every goddamn nightmare you can possibly imagine? Think, well, of course you have to aim up no matter what happens to you. And you think, well, that's not fair. It's like, well, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah.
And what does fair have to do with it? What's your choice? You're going to dig a deeper pit? Or are you going to have some integrity in the face of life's catastrophe? You know, and I think we know the answer to that, because when you meet people who have integrity in the face of catastrophe, you're struck with admiration for them.
Yeah.
Right, right. So that's your heart speaking, man. It's like, I don't know how you do it, but, you know, I can't help but
be in awe.
I know I have a friend, a very well-known Canadian, and he got into some business trouble about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and he had a great fortune and a huge business empire, and he lost every bit of it.
Wow.
And then they put him in prison. Right. And he lost everything, and he lost almost all of his friends. And they put him in prison in Florida, in a rough prison. He wrote a book there, and he got 200 people through high school.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
That was his choice.
Yeah.
It's like, even though it's as bad as it can get, I'm going to have some dignity for myself.
And do some good.
Right.
And he did. He's still in touch with the people that he got through high school. He said every single person he tutored graduated.
Wow.
No kidding. Wow.
That's admirable.
That's for sure. And surprising.
Yeah, it's how when people react whenever it's going tough, that's really where you see people, you know?
Yeah, well, and you want to have a vision of yourself in a situation like that too. It's like, maybe look, part of the Christian injunction, we were talking about Christianity earlier. So there's the fundamental Christian injunction is that you pick up your cross and you march uphill. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that's true for everybody. What's the cross? You're going to die. You know, and you're probably going to suffer when you die. And probably along the way, the mob is going to come for you and people are going to betray you. That's all going to happen to you. And so how should you react to that? Well, one answer is to be bitter and resentful and cruel and make things worse, or to give up. And you could do that, and you could make a case for why, but obviously all that's going to do is make it worse. Or you can think, Jesus, maybe there's enough to me so that I could actually do that voluntarily, and I could do it positively, and I could withstand it. And, you know, maybe that is the sort of thing you are. You know, who the hell knows?
It's where you really find out who you are. It's scary sometimes to really ask yourself who you are.